Hello, everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube land. My name is Conrad on behalf of CameraStuff. Thank you for joining yet another episode of In the Limelight, where we look into the South African photographic industry and we find some interesting and talented photographers to have a wee bit of a chat with. So we looked at the internet and we found a talented, immensely talented photographer by the name of Shepstone. He's from Stone Productions, and we decided to have a chat with him tonight. So before we log him in, I just want to give you guys a reminder, an opportunity. If you guys want to ask some questions, do so in the comment section and we'll tackle them as we go along. In the meantime, drop your name, drop where you're from, introduce yourself, and we'll give you a bit of a shout out from our end. All right, so just to give you a bit of a lowdown as to what our guest is capable of. So he sent us a slideshow with some images, and this is the insanely talented work of Shepstone, and we'll pull him in just a wee moment, but just to show you guys quickly what the lad is indeed capable of. All right, so I think without further ado, let's bring in our guest, shall we? Hello Shepstone, how are you doing, man?
Hey, Conrad, how are you?
Doing very, very well. All right, so just a bit of a heads up. I think you're having load shedding at the time, so it's just going to impact the connection a little bit. As long as we can hear you, it would be fine. But yeah, just to give a heads up to the audience, connection may run dry every now and then. But in any case, how you been,
I
man?
have load
What
shedding,
have you
so
been up to today?
my network is a bit shaky.
Hmm.
Due to a couple of sheets to just run through. Yeah, all is well on my end. How are you doing?
I'm doing perfectly well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a busy week as usual, but busy is good. As you said with the photography as well, it's good to have a daily schedule of things going, not to wait for things to happen. Yeah, so it's a good spot to be in, to have things happening every day, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah, no, that's true.
All
That's true.
right, so to people watching, I see we are building a nice crowd as we speak. So drop your name, drop where you're from in the comment section, give you a bit of a shout out from our end. So I think we can get our interview going, shall we? And as per normal, the first question I normally start off with is, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how things got started, what pushed you into the world of photography, what inspired you to pick up a camera? Yeah, tell us how things got started with Shepstone.
Back in high school, I used to do a little bit of some art. I used to draw, but I was not able to actually get my image fast enough as I would have wanted to. So a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
we started. And the first camera that I had was a Nikon D3300. So yeah, I got that,
Okay.
and yeah, it's just been. I would love to say. I'd love to say downhill or uphill, but there's challenges, and there's also the smooth. So yeah, we just yeah. So it was just
All right. So you
the
mentioned a
idea
few
of just
chat.
capturing it.
All right. So internet's a little bit choppy. Hopefully it improves over time. So sorry, Shipson, if you can hear me. So you mentioned a couple of
Yeah.
challenges that you had to get over initially. Do you want to share what those challenges were and how you overcame it?
Okay, so I guess the greatest challenge that any creator could actually run into, especially when you're young. I was coming from a space of being in high school, and now I'm done with high school. So I was like, okay, what's the next level? The challenge that I had was trying to convince my parents that taking pictures is actually it's a dream that will pay a whole lot of it'll carve a golden path for me. So yeah, it's just been that challenge. But yeah, otherwise it was a smooth. I would love to say a smooth sail, but yeah, it was just trying to get them used to that. Yeah.
All right. So you started with a Nikon D3300, as you said. So if you don't mind me asking, what are you using now? Not only in terms of camera, but lenses and lighting and whatnot. Tell us what's in the camera bag.
All right. So in my normal day-to-day shoot, I would take my Canon R, and I have a 16 millimeter f 2.8, and then I have a nifty 50, and then I have a 135, and then I also recently got a 24 to 70. So yeah, that is my package in my pocket. That's what I travel with whenever I'm going for a shoot. And yeah, if you're expanding into something else, then yeah, we call in the big guns. So,
Now, if you don't mind me poking the bear a little bit, what made you transition from Nikon to Canon?
okay, so I won't lie. It's colors. There's something
Colors,
about
okay.
Canon
So the
colors.
color
Yeah, there's something.
arguments with the Canon, yes, it's a big topic, this one.
Yeah, there's something about colors. But in my experience, I went from Nikon, I went to Fuji, then I went to Sony, then went to Canon. So I've kind of played around with the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, so on topic, a question that we have from Kenneth here. How does Canon work for you? Kindly convince me to buy it. All right, so
Okay.
kind of mentioned the colors. So anything else? Okay, so you can answer that question as a follow-up question. How was the shift from DSLR to mirrorless for you?
Um, I like to, how do I say this? I had the challenge with where I had to shoot and then my image is looking, then shoot again where I can, where with the mirrorless camera I can change my settings. I can see how the picture is looking or how the image is looking while scrolling through the settings. That was one advantage. But regarding the question I was asked to, moving to Canon, I think um,
Okay, sorry, I think we lost our guest for a moment. Let's just give it a moment.
yeah.
Sorry, you disappeared for a little bit. I was still a little bit choppy. You went a bit robot mode. Just give it a moment.
Come again?
Just wait for the internet to
Okay.
resuscitate itself.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, your last bit just disappeared a little bit.
All right. How's it now? Is it much?
Yeah, it's smoother now. Yeah. So you can, sorry,
Oh,
this is a pretty short answer.
all right. So yeah. I think why the transition from brands to finally sitting on Canon, aside it being colors, it's also if you're looking at convenience and affordability too. You won't go wrong with Canon. Why? Because we have Sigma also making lenses for Canon. We have Tamron. I do understand also Sony has all these third-party lenses, but in terms of pocket, and yeah, pricing also isn't gonna strain the pocket. Yeah, and I think
All right, so I
yeah, I
don't
think
know.
also yeah.
Just go ahead.
No, no, no. I was gonna say something that was I was gonna what I was gonna say was gonna be against Sony, but no, I think we can keep. I can keep my comment.
Okay, oh gosh, okay, I'll just gotta keep it at that. I don't know what your full experience with Canon is, in terms of the different models, but we have a question here between the Mark IV Canon and the Canon R, which is the base for photography. So these are very challenging questions to answer because I think it all depends on ultimately what feels best in hand in terms of future proofness as well. So the Canon Mark
Yeah,
IV, yeah, it's a very, very good camera. So I don't know if this is
I
referring to
believe
the
that's the
5D range.
5G. Yeah,
Yeah, very, very tanks. I know a lot of photographers that love the 5D range and the Canon R. I think it's just a horses for courses type of thing. So you made a good point in favor of mirrorless, obviously. But I think usability, how it feels in the hands as well, matters a great deal. It needs to feel like an extension of your arms and your fingertips. Yeah, so I think the best advice here would be to play around with the cameras and just to feel, what is
aside
fits
that,
better in a
I
group.
think on my end, I would lean towards a much newer technology than an older one. Why? So that you're up to date with what is happening. I guess also I like to shoot and sometimes deliver the work right there. So
Hmm.
really amazing. Or I do know there's that Wi-Fi connection that you can do where you can send your pictures directly to your camera, I mean to your phone, and distribute it. I think, yeah, I just for me it's just the little things that kind of convenient.
I don't know if you have seen the announcement of the Sony Alpha 9 Mark III with the 80,000 shutter speed,
Ooh.
120 frames per second, etc., and also around the
You know
C
what?
speed and whatnot. That is Tony Stark
I was
technology. Now, that's a little bit, that's quite hectic.
that is just
That's
he's
sci-fi
just
technology.
throwing me
That.
the right there. Because earlier on today I was looking at the A9 and I'm like,
Mm,
wow, they really that's a beast. That is a beast.
that is a beast,
Any, I
yes.
mean, the A9 range has just been crazy. So now with the Mark III, oh my word,
Hmm.
it's a different game. It's a different game.
Now, my camera is from 2016 and it's still good enough for everyday use. I have no reasons to complain about it. But I think something like
Yeah,
that, what Sony just announced
yeah,
with that Alpha 9, that makes me feel FOMO. That makes me feel fear of missing out. And I think that's the leap that is necessary for
yeah.
people to make, big changes as far
No,
as security is concerned. Yeah, so it's a good point Jay brought up. And yeah, again, thank you, Jay, for joining me. He's always here in the lives. But yeah, the Alpha 9 is a very, looks very, very tempting.
that is.
But it's interesting how the rest will react to this as well. I'm
Yeah.
certain the likes of Canon and Fuji are not far behind that too.
But like Sony has been on this game. I can't put them under the table with that one. Yeah,
Of course, yes.
they do have their, yeah.
All right. So in terms of lighting, what do you have in a kit bag?
Okay. It depends on what kind of shoot I'm going for, but for my
Mm-hmm.
events, I usually carry my V1, my V1,
Mm-hmm.
and just use that as a speed light. And
Sure.
then if I'm doing my portrait, yeah, if it's light, then I have an AD600, so that's what I use
Mm-hmm.
for, yeah, to combat against the sun, and just, yeah, to also separate the subject from the background. This adds a nice
Yes,
element.
yes. Yeah, so what you're saying is that the V1 is good enough for most shoots. So your experience with the speed light makes a lot of sense. So working indoors, we don't need a lot of light. Obviously, packing something lightweight that can go on top of a camera or a light stand, either which way, depending on what you're shooting, makes a lot of sense. But working outdoors, competing against the typical South African harsh sunlight, you definitely need 400 watts, 600 watts, just to, as you mentioned, is a very good point, separating the subject from the background as well. So choosing a faster shutter speed and overpowering the sunlight just allows your subject to stand out a wee bit against a slightly underexposed backdrop. So I don't know if I'm talking to myself here because our guest looks a bit frozen. All right, so just give Shepstone a moment here. In the meantime, I'll continue. I'm certain you'll pop back in. A question around the 8600. We'll need to ask Shepstone which one he has, the Pro or the BM version. Yeah, there it goes, I guess. So hopefully we'll lock back in. And in the time being, I can keep you busy as to which option is better, the 8600 Pro or the BM version. The Pro has the TTL, so that's the automatic function. So it works with your camera's light meter to kind of determine the amount of light that you need as measured by your camera's light meter. So consider it as a bit of an auto mode. But most photographers that I've spoken to prefer using manual in any case. So TTL is a bit of a redundant feature for many situations. Obviously, if you're working in conditions that where the light changes very often, especially with cloud cover, where you need to readjust for the light every now and then TTL may prove to be helpful. But even then, people prefer manual. TTL will put you in the right ballpark, more or less, in terms of the right exposure. So a good example I always like to use is, if I'm hunting for Bigfoot, I prefer to use TTL. Because even if the exposure is slightly wrong, I can fix it in Photoshop afterwards. But getting the shot is very important. So I think it's also a horses for courses type of thing, choosing between TTL and manual. But as mentioned, many people prefer the manual mode. Also with the 8600 Pro, faster recycle time, that matters to a lot of people as well. So just to get a lot of power out in quick succession, multiple flashes at a time, that matters, especially if you're in a commercial or sports space as well. And I find with the 8600 Pro, the tilting mechanism is a lot better as well. In saying that, I have the 8600 BM, love it to death. It's a lot of power to use, built like a tank as well. Recycle time is good enough, battery power, in terms of longevity, excellent as well. But I think let's hear from the man himself. He's back. Hello there.
Hey, sorry, my network just decided to kick me off. Yeah.
No worries at all. It happens with these lives. There's always a gremlin here and there. But yeah, don't worry about it. I don't know if you heard me in the background. We were kind of discussing Godox 8600 Pro versus Godox 8600 BM. So the question is, which one do you have?
Oh, I'm on the BM, hey.
Also the BM.
Yeah, I'm also on the BM. Yeah, it still works. It works crazy well for me. Yeah, I haven't really considered the Pro. I think I haven't really considered the Pro in that department. But because the BM
Yes.
it was much affordable for me.
Yes.
Considered the Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I worked it out a while ago in terms of best bang for buck. How
Yeah.
many rands per watt is the
For
most
once.
cost effective, and the
Yeah.
8600 BM is the most cost effective product when
Yeah.
you look at the watts per rand. So it is the best bang for
Yeah.
buck that you have out there. The BM is amazing considering the amount of light that you get and at a relatively low cost as well. The only issues is the color consistency, which I never had an issue with myself personally. Obviously, with 8600 Pro,
Yeah.
you
I
can
also
press a button and it can maintain the kelvins within 100 Kelvin. Again, in a commercial space, that matters, but I don't know about you, but once these images land in Photoshop, I play around with the colors regardless.
what's white balance to me right now?
That's a
So
good point.
it's just
All
I
right,
think
so we
it's
have
just about yeah.
Jay on Team BM as well. And what else he has to say here?
Yes, we support that. We
Love how the
support
V1 can be used as a trigger as well, so it stays in my camera bag. That's a very good point about the Godox system.
Yeah,
Is that
I was actually doing that before I bought a trigger. I was using my V1 as a trigger, but I was afraid for longevity in terms of the battery. I don't want to damage my battery
yes,
with
makes sense.
time because of So I was like, let me just get a trigger. But I was using my V1. It was a bit weird because also it made the camera extremely heavy. But yeah. But
Yeah, but
that's what I also noticed.
yeah, I believe it happened to Jay that his trigger broke for some reason. I can't remember what exactly happened, but then he just popped the V1
Yeah.
on camera and used that as a trigger instead. So it's amazing that
Yeah.
the equipment can be so versatile that it has multi uses. That's fantastic for
Yeah.
Godox system.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the creative processes of Nate. So we got the technical thingamabobs out of the way. So let's talk about the creative
Yeah.
process. How do you go about conceptualizing a photo shoot? And as a follow-up question to that, how do you make sure that everybody involved, who you're collaborating with, the models, makeup artists, stylists, etc., how do you make sure that everybody's on the same page with you on the same day?
Okay. So before the shoot, be it a week before, a mood board. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yes, sorry.
Good stuff. All right, so I always push for a mood board and a briefing form. Why? So that it makes it easier because you don't want to get to a shoot and then you're told that we must shoot people jumping or doing backflips and you're underprepared for that. So yeah, I prefer working through a briefing and a mood board so I can also see what the client wants and what they're aiming to get out of the shoot. So I do sit down with the client also, and I ask them to tell me, okay, what is it that you're expecting from the shoot? What are you looking to get from me as the photographer? That it also cuts down any situation where it's like, no, but I thought I was gonna get pictures of the moon he gave me the sun. Yes, so you know,
Yeah, I know
so
it
it's
goes, yes.
really getting that, yeah. And I
All right,
think
so
also
yes, go
on
ahead.
yeah, on set I prefer to, I like to engage with people. That's
Mm.
my base. Even with the people that I try and teach photography, I always tell them that the most important thing you can ever do is make someone feel comfortable, because the camera never lies. So even though I
Absolutely.
shoot, we just try and make jokes, try and make sure everyone's comfortable, everyone's fed, and then yeah, we get to the work done, and we get the work done.
All right, so a couple of follow-up questions I have. Do you want to help the audience in case some people don't know what a mood board is? So, yeah, just explain in your own words what a mood board is.
All right, so mood board would be generally concepts of what you want to be shot. So it could be a series of concepts of pictures that you're looking to get, maybe of how the model is going to pose, how the outfit should look, and so forth. So that's just how the mood board will kind of run around or would look like. So it's not really a mood kind of thing, but yeah, it just gives
Yeah.
it gives a basic idea of what the shoot or the guide to what the shoot is going to be looking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the idea of a mood board. Like, you need to be somewhat specific with what you want as well. Think
Yeah.
sometimes people get a little bit crazy with Pinterest boards and will have
Yeah.
like 50, 100 pins in a board, and it's like
Yeah.
multiple different things. They don't really have a gauge as to what
What
precisely you
exactly is
want
it?
or what is necessary. Yes, you
Yeah.
may get a general look and feel as to what you want, but
Yeah.
it can be confusing in terms of selecting specific wardrobe and hairstyles and whatnot. So, a mood board will have a reference to an outfit or two, a
Mm-hmm.
hairstyle,
Mm-hmm.
a color scheme as well, so your
So,
pinks and blues and purples as well. And in terms
yes.
of 3 or 4 poses, in terms of what general look and mood and
Yeah.
feeling that you're after as well. So it's a little bit more specific as opposed to like a Pinterest board where everybody just dumps stuff in. Yeah, so
Yeah.
mood board just helps people be a bit more specific as to what is required on the day. And obviously, on a day, there's a lot of playroom to experiment, but I
Yeah.
think it is incredibly important beforehand that people know what's going on. And I think an
That's true.
interesting point that you made there, if you care to elaborate. So you say you have personal one-on-ones with clients. So
Yeah.
it's not always a case of over WhatsApp or email. So do you make
No.
a date, like schedule a time with your clients so that you can be face to face and have
Yes.
a conversation about what's necessary on a day?
Yeah, I feel like that's the one of the most important things to actually ever do. Why? Because the client will know you and see
Mm,
you as a person, and then when you meet up, it's now okay. Now I see you. Now I know you. It's not going to be on the day, especially for situations like weddings. So what we generally do is we plan a date where we can meet up with a couple, so the couple also gets used to us,
mm,
and we're not too much in their face when now during the wedding. So we also generally we give them a package where it's like, okay, no, let's meet up and let's do just a one session so we can also understand your angles better and know what is it that you like also as a person, and also just a little conversation just to understand each other, and yeah, and then take it from there. I think that's the comfort is definitely the greatest thing you could ever give or you could ever provide the
mm.
service if you're giving a service.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
is excellent advice. The one-on-one meeting beforehand, also just to meet one another and to make sure that there are no scamming happening in the process
Yeah.
as well, which can
Yeah.
happen quite a lot as well. So I think as
Yeah.
soon as anybody says, I don't want to meet beforehand, that's a bit of a red flag. So
Yeah.
it's good
Yeah.
advice to photographers to always enable that as an option, even
Yeah.
if the model or couple, etc., even if they don't recommend it or initiate it, you should be the one initiating that meeting.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
All right, so you mentioned on a day making people feel comfortable. So you mentioned making jokes and obviously engaging with people. In terms of
Yeah.
posing, like how do you get the best pose out of a person? Now, in terms of what you want, but also allowing the model to feel comfortable within themselves.
Okay, so the first thing that I do, I generally ask the model to hold their phone and pretend like they're taking a selfie, so that they give me that side when they're posing it. So I tell them that, okay, so since you're holding the phone in this way, I want you to pose more on this side. Why? Because people the side that people show is the side that they like. So I can take a picture of this side, but because it's not the side that you always showcase, and they're not going to like the picture. But if I take the picture from this side where they were holding the phone, then they definitely like the picture because of it's just how the human behavior just is. So it's just that, and then also with giving poses, I think with time you begin to see what is nice and what is not nice. Ooh, did my light just turn off? Give me 1 second. Let me just turn my light
No
on.
worries. This allow Shepstone to get back. Yeah, such as the times of the load shed, hey?
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it just
I've,
runs around that. It keeps saying, oh,
there it goes again.
yeah.
You know, it's a uniquely South African interview live session when this happens.
Yeah.
It adds a bit of flavor. It feels like home. So I think people watching
Um,
abroad, if people are watching from Europe or whatever it may be, seeing the lights go on and off, I miss home.
we're now staying in it, so we used to now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you just dropped $1 million tip there when you said asking the model to pretend to take a selfie. Because obviously they've done that a million times. So you
Yeah.
can immediately see what angle they prefer as well. And obviously pretending that the hand is the light source as well. So you kind of
Yes.
know where to put the light as well. I've
But
never heard of that. That is brilliant. That is
is
awesome.
it?
Great.
Man. Yeah.
That is advice that you could sell, man. That is awesome advice.
Don't worry, I'll send my invoice to you after this.
Good, good. All right, so
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant advice. Yeah, so just to repeat, just ask the model to pretend to take a selfie. Not only will you have an idea as to what the good side is, what the bad side is, but also in terms of chin angles, etc., and also pretending that obviously the flash is coming from the camera itself. Sorry, the
Yeah.
smartphone here. So kind of need to,
Yeah.
so you can understand where the
Which
light
doesn't.
direction needs to come from as well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, in preference of shooting indoors versus outdoors, is it just a case what the client wants, or do you lead to one as opposed to the other?
Personally, I like outdoors, um, but it's always dependent on what the client wants. Yeah, but generally, you find clients that are stuck in between. They don't know whether they want to do a studio shoot or they want to go outdoor. So with that kind of situation, um, I try and I look at what they haven't done and what they've done, and I like to push clients, also to their maximum and also to also come out of their comfort zone so that they can also say, oh, okay, I achieved something like this. Like a lot of the times I have clients that come that have never really done studio pictures because they feel like they're too professional. So I'm like, okay, no, let me show you that it's not only professional, but it's also fun. So yeah, they take on that challenge and yeah, but on my ground, I prefer outdoor pictures or outdoor shoots because of what's around. I like to shoot also involving what's around. Yeah.
All right. So as you talk about that, I just want to quickly share your Instagram here.
Mm.
Sorry, just give me a moment. Sorry, I'm pressing wrong buttons here.
That's right.
All right. So I see with your images here.
Yeah.
So if I can just use you as an example, when you do outdoor photo shoots,
Yeah.
I see typically you don't blur the background to hell, which is a
Nah.
very popular technique people like to use, shooting 1.4, high speed sync,
Right.
obviously,
Yeah.
getting rid of the backdrop effectively. I see something that's what you're not doing, and I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Because I think when doing outdoor photography, the backdrop itself is a character, and you
The
want
character is
your
true.
subject to complement the backdrop and vice versa as well. So the backdrop is part of the scene and it adds to the story as well, as opposed to
Very much.
using a totally blurred out backdrop. You might as well just shoot in studio. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of storytelling to convey here when shooting outdoors, and I think this is the reason why people either love shooting outdoors or hate shooting outdoors, because it can be a little bit difficult finding that correct spot
Yeah,
but including the backdrop in your shot will just allow a bit
yeah,
of storytelling to flow. And I think that's a
that's
good
true.
move
That's
on your
true.
behalf.
There's also the aspect of where you're also looking at where you're putting up the picture. Generally, we're posting on Instagram, and the next thing that you're competing with your pictures is your phone, and your phone is not gonna be blurring the background completely out. So most pictures that are kind of trending on Instagram is generally the phone pictures and stuff like that. So you wanna also liken and compete with what the algorithm on Instagram is pushing out.
Okay,
So
interesting
now when
point.
the yeah, so now with camera, then it's a different game. It's a different game.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point. That's a bit of a double whammy. So now you're not only creating a bit of storytelling by including the backdrop, but it's also a way of trending, or at least
Yeah,
competing alongside what is trendy on Instagram as well. Clever move.
that's true.
Dropping
Yeah.
many, many $1 million tips here, eh? All right, so let me just quickly get this out of the way.
Yeah.
All right, so sorry, I'm just getting my ducks in a row here. All right, so let's continue on with our interview, shall we? So,
Yeah.
just as a reminder to everybody watching out there, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comment section. We still have a nice crowd going. So the reason why we do this stuff live is to interact with you guys watching out there on YouTube and Facebook land. Please do interact with us. Yeah, drop your questions. Let's get a conversation going. But in the meantime, I have a question here. So, photography is often about capturing a moment, which is difficult to define exactly what that is. Can you not only explain what that means from your point of view, capturing a moment, but can I also give us an example of something that happened in your career that really stood out to you, like a career defining moment?
Career defining moment. Oh man, I think I have far too many of those. Um, okay, so regarding capturing moment, I think on my end, this might not have much to do with photography, or it actually does. It's a backstory to it. So when I more or less kind of started with this, I had the mindset of being um, independent, especially financially, because also I wanted I was getting funds from my parents, but I was like, I want them to also enjoy their own money without having to worry about me, because I'm also getting older, and I don't want to be more or less of a burden. So when I started photography, I kind of it allowed me to jump through university, and be able to pay for my own university and my own lifestyle through too. So it kind of captured my my moment.
I like that, John. I like
That's my
that.
moment. So that's um, I guess that was the defining moment, or the pin that kind of made me realize, because it made me sit back and think. I'm like, oh wait, I actually managed to pull myself through school, from a hobby that is, it's distressing me, it's taking me away from the stresses of the world. It's like, holding a camera is just a, I don't know, this is a it's a different kind of world. It's a different kind of, what you see through the camera is not what anybody sees. So it was just like, okay, I get to I get to create, and also get paid to create. So yeah, that just circles around yeah, my moments, more or less.
Yeah, I love that. I think that was a great explanation. How photography aided in defining your career, not just your career, but defining you as a person as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding your feet here on planet Earth and taking one step at a time. I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful explanation of how photography integrates with that as well. Turning a
Yeah.
hobby into a profession where you can now be independent and yeah, carry your
Mm.
own weight. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful, and it's a thing many people are struggling with, but it's gonna happen. So I don't know if
Yeah.
you have any advice there. So in terms of staying in a game, keeping your head in a game, always
Yeah.
wanting to be motivated and taking one step in front of the next. What advice do you have for people out there?
Can you still hear? To kind of broke for a
I can
second.
hear you, yes.
Perfect. I guess anything. I guess the greatest lie we are told is that practice makes perfect, but you can never be perfect at something. You can always be better. So the more you practice, the better you become at the art. You won't be perfect, but you will be better. So the aim is, I guess, to be better than how you were yesterday. That's what I always. So every time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, what did I do yesterday? How can I do it better today? So I think for the young photographers, shoot a lot. I would advise you to do that. Shoot as much as you can. Why? Because it will allow you to see what you like and what you don't like. So step into. I think the the ground will be more or less events. Why shooting events? Is because it will allow you to be able to pick out emotion and know what to capture and when to capture it. So when you then translate that into maybe portraits or corporate, you're able to spark something, a memory into someone. Because we've done, like, with the team, we've done quite a lot of corporate shoots, and people are actually surprised that, oh wow, that is me, kind of thing. And it's because of
Yeah.
the feeling that the image is giving them, and they will forever remember that. Generally, people, especially in the corporate space, they don't really take much pictures because they don't feel too comfortable with being in front of the camera. But now, because you have the understanding of how a picture is supposed to look and how a moment is supposed to be felt, and you can translate that into an image. Oh, you will excel anyway. So it's just about storytelling with a picture. So yeah, and it all comes with
Yeah,
practice.
I think I heard in a movie, I'm paraphrasing here, chasing perfection is a lot better than thinking that you are perfect. Yeah, so as you said, you're not going to be perfect, but it's worthwhile pursuing it. It's worthwhile chasing after it. Yeah, it's not going to happen, and maybe it's never going to happen. But what is perfect?
Yeah,
Photography is full of its nuances and caveats. It shows different aspects of life. So the idea of perfect may not even be a discussion to begin with.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that is our job as photographers, to capture different sides, different perspectives. And as you said, it's one of the big six compliments that you can receive as a photographer when a
yeah.
person says, "Wow, you showed me in a different light," or "Wow, is that
Mm,
me?"
yeah.
Yeah, it's our little jobs as photographers, and we play an
Yeah,
immensely important job there.
that's true.
All right, so I think what we can do now is talk about your images. So you send us a
Yeah,
slideshow as part of a feature. So what we normally do here is
yeah,
we give you the platform to talk about your photos. So what you can do here
mm,
is, yeah, tell us how this was shot, what equipment was used, what inspires you to do this, who the model is, etc. When this was taken. Yeah,
yeah.
so the floor is yours. So I'll ask questions in the meantime, but yeah, we
Okay,
can start.
all right. Okay, so this is a picture of my good friend. Her name is Janique. So she does a lot of cosplay. She's a gamer. So she came to me with an idea. She's like, "No, I have an outfit for Comic Con that's happening." I'm like, "Okay, no, let's see what we can do." So she gave me a little idea, or she gave me a mood board, more or less. So she sent me pictures of how the outfit is supposed to look, and I'm like, "Okay, no, let's see how we can execute these pictures." So yeah, when she came to the studio, I had a white backdrop set up, but I felt like um, it was going to be nice, but it was going to be too ordinary to the eye. It wasn't going to be eye catching. Having the white back, everyone is shooting with a white backdrop, obviously.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, no, let's see what we can do. I took out the beige backdrop and put it up, and yeah, we came about with this with this art here.
How proactive are you mixing with different circles? So when you mentioned gamer,
Yeah,
how proactive are you with mixing in different circles, like the gaming industry or
yeah.
the music industry? Like, how do you squeeze yourself in there, creating a network so that you can be top of mind when people look for
Right.
photographers?
Okay, so I guess the ground thing of anything in life is just don't expect anything. Always be open minded. So I'm always, I guess, I don't know. I believe nowadays they call it a free spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just always free and open. So whatever comes to me, or whoever comes to me with whatever idea, I try and see how we can just. I'll be like, in some instances I'm like water. I just go with the flow, and see how it makes it, or what comes out at the end. Yeah. So it's just playing around with that. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your choice of backdrop here. You said you didn't want to go with a white. Okay,
Yeah.
couple of questions. Was paper being used here? I think you mentioned beige paper
Yeah.
backdrop. And also,
Yeah.
what
We
is your
actually,
preference when it comes to different types of backdrops? Do you prefer PVC, cotton, paper? What's your
um,
preference?
I'll say paper. Why? Because there's some creative pictures that you can do, like a torn paper, someone's hand sticking out and stuff like that. You can play around with the background. Even have someone maybe draw on it and have it hang out, and yeah, and it can still be rolled back and so forth. So this we actually got it. I actually got it from camera stuff. So there's
Good
a
man.
yeah. So yeah, we got it from camera stuff with the team. Yeah, so the team that I work with is also called Norton Media. So yeah, we push. We only get our stuff from camera stuff, nowhere else.
Good.
so,
Good man. All right,
so yeah.
so light modifier. What is your preference here? What did you use here specifically? And do you have a preference to a light modifier, like a softbox
Uh,
or umbrella that you never leave home without?
so I prefer. Yeah, I used the beauty dish, if I'm not mistaken. Why? Because I also don't want to kill out the shadows in the back.
Yeah.
Generally, if I want to completely kill all the shadows, I use an umbrella, and then yeah, I just completely face it down, and yeah, I will get a properly a clean image with no shadows and a reflector underneath. So yeah, it's just playing around with that. But I'm more of an of an umbrella person. It's just that as of late, yeah, I've had some friends tell me like, "Man, where are your shadows?" so, so I've been forced to kind of tweak around and say, "Okay, no, let me try and use." I have this softbox in front of me right now. That's what I'm using to actually beam out light on me. Yeah. So
No,
yeah,
it's a interesting conversation in the world of studio photography, having the shadow on the backdrop or not. Some people like
on the,
photos to be clean look, getting rid
yeah,
of the shadow completely, but then it looks a bit like a product photo, like the
you
person is
see,
floating in dead
yeah,
space. So having the
yeah,
shadow there, even if it's minimal, just provides a bit of gravity, a bit
makes
of
yeah,
grounding to your subject, and it looks natural, obviously,
that's
looking
true.
at the photo. So it's not a person floating on a
Yeah,
backdrop that you found on Google Images or something of the sort.
yeah,
Yeah, so the
yeah,
shadows are very, very important in terms of
yeah.
photography. Generally speaking, it provides depth, dimension, grounding, mood
Mhm.
as well. So many
Yeah,
photographers, as they start out, they are allergic to shadows. I don't know
yeah,
what instills this into a photographer's mind. They become allergic to shadows and they just want to completely wash out the
that's
entire
true.
scene of shadows. But only to
Yeah,
realize that provides a very, very flat image and not a
yeah.
very
And
interesting photo.
finds
So
a lot of features also, especially facial features. Without shadows, it's just plain. Uh,
yeah, so a bit of balancing is required in terms of the lighting that you're using. So you said you
yeah.
used a main light, key light, and a
Oh yes.
reflector
Okay.
as well.
So I actually only used one light here, hey, and it
Yeah,
was
so,
82.
wow, awesome.
Yeah.
But the reflector here was important, hey? So you had a
Yeah.
reflective position, assuming the opposite side?
Yeah. So it's also just to also create, I guess, a little separation too from
Yes.
from the subject. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
and
obviously you
also
don't want, typically speaking, you don't want deep dark shadows unless that is the
yeah,
look you're going for. But just use a reflector or a second light source just to lift the shadows
just
ever so
lift,
slightly.
yeah, just a bit, and also
Just a
just
wee bit, yes.
also it's also positioning of the light. I guess here I had it also. I guess if you follow the shadows, you can see that I had it more on the left side, facing the image. Yeah. So that the shadows fall on the back, on the backdrop with an angle, rather than having
Yes.
it right in front. So yeah, I used more directional light than straight on.
Perfect. So again, studio environment here.
Yeah,
Great posing here. I see many triangular shapes and also flowy lines, which is very important in terms of posing.
yeah,
I know it's a contentious topic nowadays, but you have
mm,
your more so feminine poses and your more so masculine poses.
yes,
It can be a little bit restrictive, but you have
mm,
your safe options here as well to
yeah,
explore.
that's
So having the triangular shapes and the flowy shapes with feminine poses work incredibly well. I don't know if that's
yeah.
something you're mindful of, or do you just go on a
I
day
do,
and work
especially
with what looks best?
yeah. You never go wrong with any triangles, eh?
Mm?
I've noticed that you never go wrong with any triangles. So just like how she was seated, having her back more or less, I could obviously can't really get 90 degrees, but you can get a body shape to
Mm.
kind of give you a triangle there, and then have a position so that it kind of supports. Yeah, so it's just yeah playing around with that. Then yeah, you also do see it with the arm there.
Mm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
All right, so what is your post processing like? How vigorous is your photoshopping afterwards? Is it just a case of tweaking little sliders here and there, or do you spend a lot of time editing
Um,
your photos?
I can't say I spend a lot. Why I say this is because I do spend a lot of time. Why? Okay, I do a crazy process. I don't know if other photographers do this when they're editing. So I import my pictures into Lightroom first, into Adobe Lightroom, and then that's where I do my first color matching kind of thing. So I get my neutral colors. I get the colors kind of pop, and then I send it through. I export to Photoshop. In Photoshop, that's when I do skin retouch, dodge and burn, global and micro dodge and burn, and then I save it and then export it back into Lightroom. Then in Lightroom, it will be saved as a TIFF,
Yeah.
TIFF, yeah, and then there that's when I then add a secondary color. So that's when I just play around with the colors that just I get a nice rich look, especially for the skin, and yeah, and also more or less of the outfits too. So yeah, so I do kind of two sets of colors whenever I edit. I think with all my pictures, that's what I do. So it takes time, but it
Yeah.
gets the results done. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's a great workflow because you're working non-destructively.
yeah,
And it's also a good tip to add colors after the fact. You know, that's just
yeah,
something I've learned over time as well. Is you if you do your color grading and stuff beforehand and you
mhm,
decide 40 minutes later you don't like it. If you
yeah,
weren't working in smart objects or working non-destructively, that's the
yeah,
color you're going to stick with. Now you have to
yeah.
rescue the color
You
that you
can't do
added.
anything.
Now you have to go back to the beginning. Now, so it's a good tip working or doing the colors at
Yeah,
the end. So do your, as you said, your micro and global dodging and burning. That takes a lot of time as well.
it takes a long time, but yeah, sometimes
It's worth it.
sometimes
Yeah.
the digital micro just push through the images. Yeah.
All right. We have another regular in the comments. Hello, Andrew. How you doing? Forgot to say hello. Lovely
Hey Andrew.
workflow, mind you. Yeah, it's a great workflow. As I mentioned, it works. Well, you go about your work non-destructively. So the file is kept safe in Lightroom, there in the
Yeah.
background. So
Yeah.
the changes that you apply, it can be rescued later
Yeah.
as well.
Still
So
can blend.
yeah, so working in the layers in Photoshop, doing the little teeny little adjustments in
Yeah.
Photoshop that you can do. Yeah, so great workflow. It's great advice that way.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see what else we got. All right, now coming to outdoors, and again, the point I want to make is I
Mm.
love it. I love the fact that you're not blurring the background to hell. Yeah, so including
Yeah.
the background, adding to the story, adding to the environment also provides a lot of context as to what's going on here. So do you want to
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the shoot?
Okay. Yeah. So with this, I always start. Okay. So how I took this shoot on, um, it was a situation. I'm like, okay, I want to involve the background, and I also don't want it to be too dark. So I first expose for the back before I expose for the model. So I keep the light or the background a bit lit. So I also opened up my aperture. I think I shot it. This is the 50 mil. I think I shot it f4, not mistaken. And then what I did is I bumped up my ISO so that it's still bright.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you then add the light, then there's no noise in the
Yes.
image. Yeah, so that's what I used. I used the 8200 here actually also.
Mm.
Yeah, or I used two 8200s. So I have a ADB2 that
Oh yeah,
I
that's a fun. That's a fun gadget.
yeah. So yeah, I get double the power there. So yeah, I used ADB2 there, and yeah, it lit up the model, but the background was already well lit. And then with the editing, it was lit, but I could still see that it was a bit dark. So I did a masking. I selected the subject and separated from the back, and then lifted the shadows and the highlights in the back, so that we still have a pop in the back there. And then afterwards, that's when I then came to the subject itself, so that it kind of blends in. Otherwise, it was going to be over. It was going to be too bright, and then the subject was going to be dark. So I had to
Yes.
just find a balance there. So yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it wasn't.
a bit of a balancing act shooting outdoors with the
Yeah.
flash. Balancing the ambient with the artificial light happening, the flash as well. It's a
Yeah.
bit of a trick to learn, but once you get into it, as you said,
Once you do.
experiment, practice, it becomes second nature. So I think this
Yeah.
is one of the trickiest things when it comes to shooting people outdoors or shooting
Nice.
anything, mind you, outdoors using the
Yeah.
flash. Balancing the ambient, exposing for the backdrop first, making sure that the backdrop is slightly darker, slightly
Yeah.
underexposed. People here have their preferences. It's a taste thing, how much salt do you want on your food,
Yeah.
how much you want the background to be underexposed. If
Yeah.
it's a third of a stop or a complete stop, maybe even two stops, that's just a preference thing. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
balancing trick. But it's
Yeah.
can be quite tricky to learn initially. But yeah, once you get into it, it becomes
Once you
second
get it,
nature.
that's true. That's true.
All right, so we have a question here from Jay, and I think this pertaining to our earlier chat about editing. How do you feel about AI?
Uh, I mean, there's this what do you call it on Lightroom? Before we jump into the show Photoshop thing. Actually, before I even answer this question, well, so what I studied in school was information systems, so it's a bit of IT and business. So I
Mm?
did a bit of coding and so forth, and I'm in full support of AI because it makes life easier. Yeah.
Yes.
So just also like with Lightroom here, I believe there's a tool for more or less like retouch. It's not the greatest, but it can get the job done. It
Mm-hmm.
can get the job done. You just need someone who has the eye for it and see, okay, no, what is it missing and stuff like that. So it will, if you're going to be doing a batch edit, then yeah, you can run it through, but it won't remove any pimples. It won't do any dodge and
Yeah.
burn or anything like
Mm.
that. Just kind of make the skin smooth, which is alright. It's not too bad, and yeah, it's. I think if you can work with it, and then when you now move into Photoshop, oh, you can go crazy with that generator fill. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, you can really create some art. A friend of mine, he shot a birthday. He shot some birthday pictures, just like
Yeah.
this, something perfect like this. But you know, she was like, she didn't have balloons, so
Ah,
he
just add balloons then.
he added balloons, and he did it for a series of pictures. And if you look at them, they are so natural. You will not see it
Mm.
until he actually mentioned it to me. He's like, but do these pictures look alright? I'm like, what you mean? Then I started looking at them. I'm like, oh, I started seeing until it was only after he mentioned it that's when I'm like,
Yes.
oh, okay, it makes sense. So it's just yeah, it's not noticeable with the normal eye, but now when the creatives look at it and they say, okay, maybe, but yeah, I think it's just use it to the maximum. If you have it, use it. Don't fight against it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
The generative fill and the generative expand in Photoshop has been a lifesaver. Has
That's,
saved my butt a few times. I have a nasty habit of chopping off elbows and toes.
yeah.
Just expand a little bit. Let Photoshop add the toes, the rest of the
That's
elbow. Has saved my butt so often, right? Yeah,
hey,
as I
man,
said,
'cause-
I've just a couple of nasty habits around framing my subject properly and often
yeah,
chopping off scalps or fingertips or whatever it may
that's
be. Now, this has been a lifesaver, this new,
yeah.
this new feature on in Photoshop.
On Photoshop, yeah, it saves a lot.
As Andrew's saying, embrace or be left behind. Sounds a bit
Yes.
spooky, but yeah, it's probably not as Terminator as that, but yes, it's just about
Yeah, no,
integrating
it's
it a little by little bit. I'm certain those are people who refuse to use it, but this has been part of the industry for a very, very long time. Now,
Yeah.
technology changes. It's not a case of things replacing one another. This is
No.
about things integrating with one another. Yeah,
No.
so this
Still need
becomes a
someone to
broader
push a button.
landscape. Now, it becomes a broader landscape. So this is not as spooky as a Godzilla running through a city, destroying everything. It's not going to be that. AI is not going to destroy the planet.
That's true.
Or
That's true.
maybe one day in 100 years, who knows? But
Yeah.
it's about expanding the landscape. It's not about replacing things in the landscape.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's see what else we got here. Okay, again, shooting outdoors. All right, so preference of light modifiers outdoors. We had an
Uh,
interesting discussion with Andrew
yeah.
last week,
Yeah.
talking about practical stuff to use on location because the wind is a thing. So if you're going to have a big softbox outside or your big umbrella, it is susceptible to wind and you're going to collapse the light stand and yeah, that's going to be a few thousand rands worth of
Yeah.
damage.
I,
No worries.
okay. I'll keep it 2 bars there. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
Just in terms of light modifiers, outdoor photography, do you have any preferences there? Because I don't know if you heard me say we had an interesting chat with Andrew last week pertaining to outdoor photography and practical light
Yeah.
modifiers. Obviously, it's nice using the big softbox, but it's susceptible to the wind, and if that's going to blow over your light stand with your fancy 8600, it's going to create 1,000 rands worth of damages.
Oh, yeah. And I think I've brought in. Yeah, I think the staff at Camera Stuff know me. I've brought in my 8200s countless of times because of planes taking them away and yeah, them getting damaged. So yeah, that's what I'm also very thankful to you guys for. You guys have sorted my stuff
Thanks,
out.
man.
So I generally what I do is I usually have I go with my it's a 120 softbox. So I
Mm,
go with an assistant to just hold it.
okay.
Why? Because I still want to give the best images, rather than
Mm,
yeah. I mean,
compromising, yeah.
yeah, then compromising. Someone paid for it, give it to them. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So yeah, I go with an assistant just to hold the light, in case any 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 wind decides, or if in
yes,
case
yes.
wind decides to to be jealous of the photo shoot, then he's there to just back me up and stuff. So yeah, it's just that. But yeah, for
No,
this image, yeah,
it's nice to have your remote control light stand. The remote
yeah,
activated light stand. The assistant that can carry your stuff around. Now it's lovely to have now, but without the assistant, obviously,
yeah.
sandbags or use your camera
Sandbags.
bag as a weight, or
Oh. Now you just
be
need.
mindful of wind damage and use something a little bit smaller. It's not always the case that you'll
So,
have somebody to hold on to the light stand, so you just need to be mindful around that
yeah.
as well.
So you still can get away with murder if you're using a V1. I won't
Well,
lie.
that
It's
too,
just
yes.
about knowing how to use it and how to position it. So yeah, it's much lighter, it's smaller, and yeah, I think you can definitely get away with it. Yeah, with outdoor portraits also. It won't give you a lot of light, but yeah, I think if you play around with the aperture there, you can just
Yes.
darken it up, then just put it onto its full power, and yeah, you get a nice separation like this too.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the image?
Yeah, one of my favorite images, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Not only because it was graduation, it was also because I managed to get the sky to pop.
Mm.
Yeah, generally, it's a mission for most people to just kind of have, it mustn't only be about the subject, but also, like we keep mentioning, that the background plays a key role in any image. So getting 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 the clouds to pop with the blue there and also the sunset. You can see the yellows there. It complemented what was also now in the front, the foreground. So yeah, I think I used the 80s, like 200. It seems like I'm shooting a lot of my 8200,
Like
but I
most
think
people, yeah. People always
yeah, I think
gravitate towards 8200, even if they have other equipment. It's a
yeah,
very, very
I think
practical
it's
light to use.
lighter and it's portable, so it's like yeah,
Mm.
So yeah, 80-200. Yeah, here I shot with the 50 mil. I had one where I shot with the 16 mil. The 16 mil kind of it gave me a nicer background than the 50 mil, but I just like this because it was tighter and it was it was a close up. So yeah, and also
How
the
do you make
position.
how
Yeah,
do you make sure not to over edit a photo? Because you mentioned the sky popping, and I think you got a nice balance here. But I think
yeah,
spending a bit too much time in Photoshop on
can
can
ruin.
lead
Yeah,
towards over editing, adding too many colors, too much saturation.
yeah.
How do you avoid that? Do you take a break every now and then when editing,
I
just to
do. I
refresh
do.
your eyes?
I won't lie. I take a lot of walks because I like to just move around. So sometimes I do stand up and just get a breathe and say when I come back I'm seeing the pictures looking completely different from what I
Yeah.
was before.
Uh huh.
And then also I have about 5 people that I can't say I trust, but I trust. So I can send them the pictures and then I'll get different opinions. But I will try and see if I could accommodate all the opinions into something that's there. So I also take I would say criticism is constructive to me. So
Yeah.
I don't say no, even though sometimes as a photographer you get attached to images. So I won't say no, but I feel this is not. If someone says that no, this is not working, then I take it as that. But I still stay true to my own art also.
Yeah, of
So
course. Yeah, it's good to have them around. I
yeah,
have a couple of them. Even when I don't ask, they will deliver criticism. They
yeah,
will. It always opens up with, "Hey, Conrad, you did a beautiful photo shoot, but," and then it's like a list, a laundry list
yeah.
of things I
But
did wrong.
yeah,
And it's nice to have them around. It's very nice, especially if you can trust
you know what?
them and their opinions around what you're doing. Plus, if they know you personally as well, they can tell you when they feel
Yeah,
something is off about your work from a personal perspective as well. So
I
it's
have
good to have these
this
people
one.
around just to kind of keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I have this one guy. So I know him as he's the guy that I started my journey with. So if I send him a picture, I'm not gonna get anything positive from him. He's gonna tell me what's wrong with the picture. He's not gonna. The picture will be nice, but you tell me, okay, this, and then after they say, oh, the picture's nice by the way, but it's after all the pain.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so it's one of those. Yeah,
Yeah, it can be painful, but it's nice
yeah,
having these people around that you can trust, considering their
that's true.
opinions. Because it's tough love. It's not. Yeah, let me just say this: it's nice getting the compliments. A family member or somebody telling you, "Oh, you're the best photographer in the world." It's stunning, stunning, stunning. But
Yeah,
they don't tell you what you're doing wrong as well. So the
yeah,
compliments are nice, but being over flattered, having too many
yeah,
compliments going around, can just go to your head as well, and you don't know what you're doing wrong. Maybe
yeah.
people feel afraid to deliver criticism.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
necessarily want to step on your toes, but in the meantime, you're welcome
you need
criticism.
that.
So
Mm,
it's
mm.
nice to have, as you said, those one or two people around that can take you
Mm.
head on with these things.
Yeah,
All right, let's see what else we got. Also outdoors. Okay, tell us a
yeah,
bit more about this shoot.
yeah. So this was Matric Dance. Yeah. So when we did this shoot, she was also kind of camera shy, so I had to get her comfortable. You know, throw in a bit some jokes. Get her comfortable, get her used to the camera. So we did kind of take time to kind of transition into the actual photo shoot. So generally, what I like to do, if I'm generally booked for, let me say 1 hour. Let's just say I'm booked for 1 hour, right? I get there maybe 45 minutes before, and then I start engaging with clients, talking to the clients, trying to see what they feel like, what they're thinking. So yeah, that grace period allowed me, I could see that okay, no, he's yeah, a lot of cameras are a bit intimidating. So I got her used to the camera, and she was blown away even by the way she was seeing herself in the
Good.
yeah. So it's just that. So yeah, it was also just lines. That's what I played with. So
Yeah, I can see
yeah,
the lines, the symmetry playing a role
yeah.
here.
So the lines kind of focus on her. It's a shame. Generally, I would have removed the tree on the left side here, but I was like, it's gonna look too, I don't know, too edited. So I just left
Yeah.
that tree there. So it was just having the line or her positioning her in the middle, and yeah, having more or less like a leading path to her. So that's just how I shot it. And yeah, expose for the back was the most important thing also.
Now,
Yeah.
shooting outdoors is in terms of composition and leading lines and what can be used in the background to create interesting ways of making your subject stick out, and also
Yeah.
having the backdrop play a role as well. As mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, the backdrop is a character, and how do you go about complementing or integrating that character into the shot? Yeah, this is where, as I said, outdoor photography can be a pain because sometimes
Yeah.
you miss these opportunities, so you don't know specifically what to look out for. So it may be easier,
True.
quote unquote, to shoot in the
That's true.
studio, but you have all of these opportunities begging outdoors.
Yeah. The
So
challenges.
if you are a photographer watching, don't avoid outdoors. Shoot
Yeah.
outdoors. You have all of these magic moments and
Yes.
magic opportunities that you can create. It's just about keeping your eye open, looking for symmetry, looking for leading lines, looking for little splashes of light here and there that you can use as a hair light or
Yeah.
um, as a separation light. There's many things
Yeah.
to consider. You know, this is a long journey of discovering what can be done outdoors and
Yeah.
integrating composition and exposure and all these things. Yeah, photography
Yeah.
is fascinating.
Yeah. It is. It really is.
All right, let me just see here. Andrew saying, yeah, huge lack of proper feedback in the country at the moment, sadly. Yeah, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's that social media space that is kind of creating a different world for us. I don't know how else to put it. Like we put our images online and we just get compliments, compliments, compliments. No, we don't get proper feedback in terms
Yeah.
of what's really happening in the shot or what's really wrong with the shot. And also
Yeah.
people write our feedback almost immediately saying, oh, you're rude, how dare you, talk
That's. I
about my
think.
art in that way. Yeah, so we need these spaces where people are willing to put in their work and also to invite criticism as well. But not a lot
Yeah.
of them going around. Facebook obviously is there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. With Facebook, the algorithms are not showing groups in your main
Yeah.
feed as
Yeah.
often, so you have to go into the group and see what's happening.
And see what's happening there. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think also we're also in a space where most people are kind of afraid to say the truth because they feel like um, they don't know how you're gonna take the truth.
Mm.
So yeah, the picture may be not looking the best, but they're afraid to tell you because they feel for you as a person. And I mean, it's cute and all that, but it won't help any development in the long run. It's really such a yeah. It becomes a downfall for artists or for creatives. Having no challenge is a challenge
Yeah,
alone.
it's tough from both sides. Being a critic as well,
Mm.
it's maybe tough to get your criticisms out there without getting a shout back for that. But also from the opposite end, people do get rude comments. Now that is
Yeah,
definitely a thing in the industry is
that's
that rudeness does exist and people kind of criticize for the sake of criticizing. They will look at everything wrong with an image and not
yeah,
up talk in an upbeat manner. There's no tough love there. It's just a way of keeping people down. There's a lot
yeah,
of ego, a lot of arrogance in
yeah.
the industry as well.
That's the downfall.
But I think fixing it is not to ignore it. Obviously, we need to continue talking about these things and to be proactive at creating a perfect balance, as to what is good criticism versus bad criticism. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just about inviting yourself to that space and also inviting others as well. So the work that Andrew is doing on essay photography Facebook, that is
Mm.
excellent what he's doing there. But
I
yeah,
need
we
to
need
join.
more of it.
I need to join the page.
Need to, yeah. So it's yeah, as soon as you comment anything or drop anything, you sit in Mr. Heyman, that is Andrew's nickname. You'll be the first to comment.
Looking forward to that.
All right. So that's the end of our slideshow. So if you're still watching, we still have a big crowd going. So if you have any questions to ask, please do drop them in the comment section.
Yeah.
So I have one or two questions, but I still need to ask you.
Yeah.
What is your advice to aspiring photographers out there?
Um, I think do it for the love. Do it for the
Mm,
love of the art. Yeah, there is money that will come with it, but nothing will ever beat passion.
mm,
Nothing will ever beat passion. But yeah, also keeping your head up is the greatest thing you could ever do, because yeah, you will receive a lot of backlash, especially from family or friends or clients. But it's just about having your head strong and taking it, taking anything that is said with a pinch of salt, if I may say, yeah, or grain of salt in reality. Yeah,
Now you know you're going in the right direction the more resistance you face. So as
yeah,
things get more difficult, you know you're in the right direction. And things get
yes,
a lot easier when you enter that complacent zone. You know you're in trouble. If
yeah.
you do the
That's
same things over and over again, when things start feeling a little bit too familiar, a bit too comfortable,
it's time to change up.
you're one edge, you're one step away from a
Yeah,
danger zone. So you always need to keep yourself on the edge. As I said, the more resistance you face, you know you're getting in the
yeah,
right direction.
yeah. I'll
All right,
see.
question from Andrew. What must be your most memorable moment with your camera?
I think I think I don't know if it's memorable, but I think, hey, dropping your camera
I think that's
and it
memorable,
was still
especially if
working.
it's your, if it's one of your first babies, your first or second
Oh man,
camera, or the
yeah,
camera
man.
that made you popular. We
Yeah,
all have that
like
camera that we want to put on a trophy or the little in the trophy case or on a pedestal. If you drop
I,
that camera, it's heartbreaking.
yeah, yeah. No, I think when I dropped my Canon R, the LCD at the top of the screw of the camera kind of cracked, so it reminded me. I'm like, you know what? This is I need to make sure that whenever I'm holding it with caution, because I had the strap on, so I was showing the client how the picture's looking,
Uh huh.
and for some reason I thought I still had the strap on. So usually I
Oof.
like let go of the
Okay.
strap so I can see the light. So I let
Mm.
go of the camera, and I'm seeing the camera is still falling, and it falls in slow motion.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
it does. And you try to
you
kick it up.
and it's like
Try and drop kick it and somewhere, hopefully up. Yes.
so
I've
yeah,
had those moments too, yes. That's
yeah, that was
terrible.
that was a highlight. From there, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, take care of the things that take care of you.
That
So
happened to me.
yeah,
Now I double strap. I have the hand strap and the
and
shoulder or
yeah,
leg strap. Yeah,
yeah,
so it's, yeah, double down on the protection.
yeah.
All right, last question I have from my side. What's in the pipeline? What's next as far as Shepstone is concerned?
Videography, videography. You
Oh,
are
not
you
bad.
are you are yet to see. I'll be dropping a video soon. I got
Okay.
to tell a story with my friend's clothing brand. So he asked me, he's like, nah, um we've got some cool tops, and they have some noodles on them. So we found an Asian restaurant in Hatfield. It's called Kung Fu. Kung Fu. I can't remember the last, but yeah,
Uh
we
huh.
went. We got some amazing. We got pictures also, but the video was a highlight because it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me, because you're coming from a space of doing stills. Now you're getting into a space of moving stills. So it was like, okay, yeah, and I believe I nailed it. Yeah, he was also wild. The
Good.
people that saw the video, they were wild. So I don't know when it's gonna drop. I'm waiting for client approval. So yeah, yeah, it's one of those. So I think that's what's next. That is yeah, I
Okay,
guess.
I
I'll be
apologize.
coming
That
to.
wasn't my last question. I have a follow-up question. And this is
Hit me,
probably
hit
going
me,
to
hit
lead us to a 10-minute discussion because I think it's a very
me.
important one.
Yeah.
How important do you think in today's modern world, concerning the fact that social media is very video orientated? As
Yeah.
photographers, should we be multidisciplinary in terms of doing video as well? So even if you're not doing it professionally, but having videos of your work, of yourself behind the scenes, having a videographer uh, documenting all of that so that you can display your brand online in the video format.
Yeah, no, you know what? There's two things to what you mentioned. One would be, I think the main scope of it is being able to balance both as a creative. I wouldn't want to say as a photographer, but as a creative. Yeah, being able to do pictures and videos. I think you don't have to be excellent at videos, but having an idea of something, it will then grow. Why? Because it will challenge you as a
Yeah.
creative. Secondly, your own brand. So you have to market
Mm.
yourself in many different ways. And what is trending now is people want to see something that's moving. And
Yeah.
yeah, if I've also noticed on my side, I've noticed that I get more bookings when I post more. So it's
Yes.
not just posting more pictures, but posting more of me taking the pictures and then
Mm.
showing the result. So TikTok is the greatest place to actually push yourself through. So yeah, I suggest pushing through that. I think my
No,
laptop is
so
like
it's
so it might die. So I just have to switch to my phone real quick. But yeah,
okay. I think on that note, I think it's time to say goodbye. We're an hour and 50 minutes in, so we had a great discussion, Shepstone. Thank you so much.
yeah.
It was an insightful discussion interview. You do amazing work. Please continue what you're doing, inspiring the rest of us. If you want to follow Shepstone, the links are provided in the comment section, also in the description. So please do follow our guest if you're still watching. Also, if you have missed parts of this interview, it will be on YouTube, so you can watch it from the beginning later on as well. So I don't know if you have any shout outs, Shepstone, any people that you want to thank for contributing
Uh,
to your career?
yeah. There's this guy named Jeha. Yeah, I think yeah he's been a prime in my growth. So yeah, I want to give a major shout out to him. Yeah, we worked together. Actually, he pushed to he's pushing to buy Stone Productions under his company. So you might not see that, but yeah, I want to give him a shout out because he's also taught me how to take pictures and how to also maneuver through the business. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So again, thank you so much. So I think we'll catch you all on the flip side. So we have another interview tomorrow. But beyond that, do check out our YouTube and our Facebook for future live scheduling. Yep. So from my point of view, I'll see you tomorrow again. So everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube land, thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to
Cheers,
be a goodbye
guys.
from us. So cheers and.